Since the release of Elden Ring, the gaming world has had to take a different look on gaming as a whole. Now you wonder, what might this have to do with Gotham Knights or even other DC Comics games that are out there or maybe coming? And I'd say, give me a few minutes and let me show you a few interesting things that just dropped in my mind. Before we go any further, welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is where we talk about a lot of the DC games, focusing specifically right now on Gotham Knights. So for the past few months, maybe even I would say years, we've been talking about how Gotham Knights has been quite influential in the sense that it was first revealed. A lot of things were unknown, but the gameplay reveal that we got to see has been dissected over a large period of time. So there are many things we've been able to see and take a look at. On top of that, other video games have been released even since that reveal. And I would say because of the newest release, which is Elden Ring, that has been shaking the gaming world. It's kind of interesting to see how everyone is taking a deeper look at all these video games. Now, Elden Ring, for one, is one of those games that was unapologetic in its approach to gaming. The developers from Software brought their expertise, they brought their knowledge, they brought a lot of things that they thought was going to be very, representative of their own development style to a broader audience using an open world setting. Now, I thought this game was going to be one of these random one-offs. You see, for me, Gotham Knights was my most anticipated game of the year, only for me to be surprised by how good Elden Ring was, that to the point that I've actually put in some crazy amount of hours in there that I don't even necessarily feel comfortable revealing to y'all. And that's just my first playthrough. There are other playthroughs. There's so many more things that I still have to do in that game. Now, you might also say, well, but this is a much more traditional RPG in the sense it's a Souls-like arena fighting, difficult enemies, and all kinds of different setups and structures. But here's the reality. It seems Gotham Knights is not that much different in a sense. You see, a game like Elden Ring, you're able to gather equipment, better items that will help you, things that would allow for you to be able to approach the game in different ways. And Gotham Knights is actually kind of the same. You see here in this little clip where we see Batgirl take out this whole horde of enemy NPCs, I think she gets a little bit of gear in the sense she gets some XP if you notice. She also gets potentially some items if the gear is not, gear itself, but there's a logo that comes up saying that she's just acquired something. In Elden Ring, it's kind of the same, or in most other RPGs. And so I think, to me, that this is probably the direction and the approach that Gotham Knights must have been taking. Remember, I've done a comparison about this game and Assassin's Creed before. If you want to see that video, you might want to check the description. I'll link it for you so you can see that. But I'm starting to look again a little further, and I'm looking and saying, man, it appears that this game seems to be in a place where they're taking their approach and moving away from the good old Arkham games and providing a context where this game is going to be like a traditional RPG. Now take a look at the Arkham games. Let's look at Arkham City. In the combat systems and settings, you see enemy NPCs, they take damage, but you never see a health bar for an enemy NPC. Now, those enemy NPCs are still going to be taking a numerical damage value. It's just that Rocksteady decided not to reveal that to you. They use all kinds of different systems to weigh the damage that they take. Critical strikes, takedowns, all of those things will basically scale to what damage numbers the enemy NPCs are going to be taking, or whatever that is. In Gotham Knights, from the gameplay reveal that we got, it seems that the enemy NPCs, they kind of, in a sense, decided to emphasize more than anything the numerical damage values that you're actually dealing. Here, Batgirl is beating up on these enemy NPCs and you're seeing some damage numbers fly from their body, or floating damage numbers is what they call them in a development sense. Elden Ring is not different. In fact, when you're hitting enemy NPCs, you're going to be seeing the same things happen as well. If you strike an enemy NPC of some kind with an attack, you're going to see a damage value based on, your attack or your hit close to their enemy health bar. And so this is not uncommon, but again, we've now taken Gotham Knights from the good old Arkham games, and we've now put it in a category where we're talking about it in light of these RPG games like Assassin's Creed, possibly some of the systems that are in Elden Ring. Now, again, you might say, well, but that's just one aspect. How do we know that we're going to see some really similar parts? I guess similarities is what I tried to say there with these games. Well, it's interesting that that question kind of dropped on my mind and potentially maybe has dropped on the minds of somebody else that's actually, watching this video, which brings me to another really interesting aspect. You see, as this gameplay progression went on, we kept wondering, okay, everywhere's frozen. This is Mr. Freeze, right? This is probably what came to the minds of those of us who were picking up on the hint. In fact, I was just enamored. I didn't even think much. I was like, oh, I guess he said, something about Mr. Freeze in the gameplay review, but I don't care. I just want to see the mechanics, and I'm watching with all intensity. And she crawls into some kind of a cave, some kind of a dungeon, some kind of an area where, there is something that's quite interesting here. And as she and Robin make their way into this arena, behold, there is some kind of a device, some attraction of some kind. This is basically what it is. And then, you and your character do the one thing that you probably didn't want to do. You jump into this lair or dungeon or arena that belongs to the boss. This is the case in in my opinion with even these Souls games. They put you in a position where you jump into a lair, with a boss of some kind, and you're gonna walk right in there and you're gonna go approach this boss, and it's going to be very interesting as to how you go ahead and deal with it. I mean, look at this. In Elden Ring, just like all the Souls games, there's a boss wall. You traverse it. Sometimes this wall is actually not there initially when you first start. So you walk in, you're going to see there's a cutscene with, the enemy NPC or the boss that you're about to fight, right? This is something that we've seen in many games. Well, check out Gotham Knights itself. You walk into this lair, and the very first thing you see is Mr. Freeze, and there's a small intro where he addresses you and, Robin. You guys have this conversation or this, spitting back and forth of all kinds of different zingers, and then he does his little thing. He freezes up the arena in some way, like, oh, you're not getting out or whatever it is. We're going to have to fight it out today. Yeah. And then, boom, the fight starts. Dude has got a health bar that is literally twice or 2.5 times your health bar. I mean, am I the only one seeing these similarities? And so if Gotham Knights is going to take this approach, in the sense that the developers have decided to keep this design, because, we haven't seen any gameplay since this was first revealed, right? If they decide to keep this approach, if they decide to keep their living world system where there will be quests, where there will be open world activities, where there will be discoveries, areas to explore, and all of the above, then my hope is that they're able to bring in the quality, if you get what I mean, that quality that a game like Elden Ring has been able to bring to the market. A game like Elden Ring has been able to bring to the community of gamers as a whole. You see, for the longest time, Gotham Knights and games like the Arkham games and maybe Spider-Man games and all of the above have pretty much lived in this obscure area where the fans have been the ones that have patronized the games. A game like Elden Ring is the birth of, say, all of the work put into the Souls games. And a lot of people have avoided those games, just like they've also avoided the superhero games. I wonder if the developers of Gotham Knights are able to bring more people into their community, if they're able to go ahead and do something of this nature, if they're able to appeal to a broader audience. But here's the challenge. You see, many people are still not used to this style of video games in the superhero genre. This is a huge risk. And I'm certain as a community, it's something we have to really be paying a lot of attention to. But I'll stop here for now. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching. Peace out.